Hello there and welcome back. Another Junk Journal July embellishments. God, I really stutter over saying that. So today I'm making some faux photo frames, and I've cut some papers 2.5 by 5 inches, and I'm basically folding them in half. So I'm going to punch a hole out of these. Now you don't have to do that, I'm going to come to that in a minute, and I want to be able to get it in the centre. Now I've got this square punch. You might have a die, you might have to cut it by hand with a craft knife. Now it says on here that it's 2 inches. Well, it's 1 3/8 inch square it makes. So how do I go about finding the centre on that? So I've got a sharp pointed pencil, and I'm just going to mark just top and bottom on the inside where that fold mark is, and then I'm going to get my rule and I'm going to draw a diagonal line from that corner down to that corner. Now this is not, you know, a perfect mathematical solution, but it does help. So from there to there. Alright, so now I've got this cross, and then I'm going to turn my punch upside down. I'm going to place that part, I just thought if I'd drawn it on the right side, in here. And when, I don't know if you can see this, but when those pencil lines match up with each of the 4 corners, then you know that you've got it roughly in the centre. I'm just going to have to bring this towards me a little bit so that I can see that I'm punching it right. And it does take a little while to just get it just so. And if I apply just a little bit of pressure, the punch will then hold it in place. And I keep these bits as well. So hopefully, I've got it roughly centred. Roughly. A blind man would be happy to see it. Now I'd also got a whole load of magazine cuttings and book cuttings of images. So if I open that out, and then I can sit my little window on top and pick out the bit that I like. Oh, I quite like that. Okay, I'm going to use that one. And then I'm just going to trim off some of the excess, but making sure that it's bigger than the hole so that I can glue it down. Now because they're from book pages, they're quite shiny, but you could, if you wanted to, put a piece of plastic, you know, clear plastic on the back, and then add your picture behind that so that it creates that effect of it being a photograph. And then I'm just going to ink it up, and I've got my little eyeshadow applicator to just do the inside of that bit in there, because my dibby dabby doobie is a bit too big. To get down into those corners. Okay, and I'm just going to put it round the aperture there. And then I can sit this on the top. And then I can glue the two together, and then I've got somewhere to write on the back. put a little bit over the picture. And then I can ink around the edges. And that's it, basically done. So you could add more decoration to it if you want. So for instance, with this being a flower, I could add a little butterfly on the outside here. I could add, you know, a number label on it. So you can decorate it up further, you don't just have to leave it at that. And you could even round the corners if you want. I actually rounded at the corners on one of them and I didn't like it. I preferred it square, so I'm going to leave mine like that. When you've got an image and you've got this aperture, have a look to see which bit looks best to show through. And I think that this little one up here looks actually better than doing any of those two there. So I think that that one works better, and then I can use this somewhere else. So I'm just going to cut, just see if I can do this without moving it. I want to cut it about there. Okay. And hover that over there. And then I've got room to manoeuvre that because I've not glued it down. Yeah, and look, the daisies go well with this paper as well, so that was handy. Let's glue this one down. Ink it up. Just middle or side or top, bottom and to the side, I think. Yeah, like that. Now if you don't have a punch to cut out an aperture, and you're also just going to stick this in your journal as it is, then obviously you don't need the folded part with the backing. So you could just cut yourself some 2.5 inch squares. Let's use that one. And then I've got some images, and I got these from Hither and Yon Studio. It's one of their digital kits. Cut out your image, and again, it doesn't have to be floral or, you know, botanical. Slides, that was the word I was looking for. So they're like vintage slides, aren't they? So I think I might ink the edges of that one up. Stick that on. Sorry, I'm not really in frame, am I? Get that right, Carol. And then ink the edges of this up. In fact, what I might do actually before I ink it up, I might just round these corners off. Now the 3/8 of an inch on this was too big, so I think the 1/8 of an inch will be about right. So there we go. So I'm going to go off and go and make some more, and I'll be back in a minute or two, well a second or two for you, to show you the ones that I've made. Okay, I'm back. I've been sat for just over an hour. I've been watching Aussie Gold Hunters and I made these. So these are the flat ones. So if I wanted to stick them on a page, then I could do. And I used the portraits from Hither and Yon Studio. So those turned out well. And then that was my original prototype. And then I've made these and I've put a stamp on the back of each of them and done some stamping on the front, and also on some of them I've added some labels. So I think that they turned out quite well, really. So I think I made about 17 altogether, something like that. So I hope it's inspired you to think about having a go for yourself, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for joining me today. Bye for now. Bye.